So, hi everybody, and welcome to our latest Lovely People webinar. And it's a really special treat for me tonight because our lovely person is actually a guest at my house tonight, all the way from America. I've known you probably over a year because you were
at least 2 now.
Was it 2 years? Is it as long as that? Goodness gracious. Yes. So.
If I knew I could do this online, I wouldn't have to come fly all the way here. Jeez, you could have told me.
So Jill came over to speak at the big Ticken conference that's been the big 3 principles conference that was on Sunday, Monday and Tuesday, the conference was. So when the conference finished, she came down to Devon here to visit me and Lucy and Beck. And this is our first Lovely People webinar where lovely Lucy and Beck are we're all living together now. We're all here they're upstairs. We're all in the same house. So we've been having a ball today with Jill. We've been hanging out together, having really good fun. And this was kind of the whole, with all the Lovely People webinar and everything we do, this is very much, we kind of want to walk our talk in living a life that we love. So this was the next step in that for us. So anyway, tonight Jill volunteered. Well, you were kind of
I found out when I got off the plane that I was on this, or when I got off the train, I guess.
But you're going to be
that I was doing this webinar today. So.
Yeah. So each week we do something called the Lovely People webinar, and this kind of started because when I wasn't in a good headspace, it looked to me like the world was full of not very nice people. It looked like people were out to get me, and I would get all nervous and shy and unsure of myself around people. And then as I came across the principles and I began to see the world in a different way, I began to see people in a different way. And I've got some amazing, beautiful people that I'm friends with now. And the Lovely People webinars is all about introducing these people to you. And the idea tonight is if you have any questions, if anything me and Jill talk about sparks something in you and you want to ask any questions, please do. You can unmute yourself, or so long as you've got your camera on so I can see you, you can kind of wave or put your hand up, or you can send a message on the screen that I will hopefully see. But please feel free to join in. This is a conversation. You're very welcome to make comments or ask questions about anything we talk about. So while Jill was at the conference, was it at the conference that you heard this?
No,
it wasn't. Oh, well, would you like to tell everybody what it is
that we were going to talk about?
Yeah.
This is just a little something that I've been thinking about lately. I heard it. I was on Michael Neal's Creating the Impossible course, which was a 90-day thing that ended a few weeks ago, and he had webinar calls like every week, and he had his lovely assistant, what's her name from Scotland, Lynn Robertson, I think. You know her?
No, I don't. I know of her.
She does some of the calls, and she was doing this one, and she was, all the people would call, and same like this, they would ask questions and things, and she kept pointing them back to, but at least you realized you were doing that, or you saw that you saw that it was thought in the moment that was creating your experience, and which is what we all do who talk about this stuff. But then she said she had seen a blog post that Elsie Spittle had written, and Elsie, if you don't know, was like Sid Banks, the founder of this whole thing's right-hand person. Like she was like the first person that he told about this, and that she was the first one speaking with him and talking to groups and stuff. And she had a blog post where she said something about I see thought equals the 3 principles, and they described it as I as mind, see as in being aware or consciousness, and thought as thought or experience. So it was the 3 principles right there, 3 principles in action. And for me, I don't know about you, but like I never really quite, the 3 principles aspect of this whole understanding never really resonated with me. I don't talk about 3 principles. I talk about thoughts creating feelings, and people creating their own realities and having separate realities. But I never really got, where do these three principles really fit in? And when I heard it like that, I see thought equals mind, consciousness, and thought. I was like, oh, like it just totally started to make sense for me in a different way. And so since that time, my watch is buzzing. Since that time, I've really been, it's seeming like I'm getting so many more insights into the whole seeing of thought. I mean, I always have been looking in that direction, but there's something new. It's like, it seems to me like that's the only thing we need to do. As soon as we recognize that what's happening in whatever problem we may have, whatever situation appears to be going on around us, as soon as we see, become conscious of, become aware of that it's thought, and not in a way like saying, I know it's thought, but, because that's what we all do, right? You know, my husband's bugging the shit out of me. Are we allowed to swear?
Yeah.
I know it's thought, but he's still bugging the shit out of me, you know, like, we don't know it's thought, then we're not seeing how it is thought when that happens. It's we're not seeing it. But as soon as we do see it, or even if it's later when suddenly he's not bugging us, seeming to bug us anymore, and we sometimes can then see how it was thought, and that's it. Like, then it disappears, it dissolves, it completely dissolves as soon as we see whatever it is, because it's all thought, even though it doesn't seem it. As soon as we see that, it dissolves the situation. And so it's almost like I see that now as like such a key to this understanding. I'm sure I'll see something else in a few weeks that I'll be on to that one. But so, yeah, I don't know if that, you were saying something earlier about
I
it too,
love
right?
that. It really, when you shared that with me today earlier, that really sparked something in me, the simplicity of that, because I think, you know, we have these discussions, and there's nothing that I love more than getting together with a group of people and talking about the principles, looking in this direction. It's my very, very favorite thing to do in the whole world. But sometimes when we can overcomplicate it with the words that we put on it, you know, we get into these discussions, and it's very easy to kind of take ourselves down a rabbit hole. And just absolutely seeing the simplicity of I see thought, it really hit me too. I was like, wow, yeah, that's it. And as soon as we get to, I mean, there has to be an I for us to create, you know, this the thought created I. And it's like, I see thought. It's like, we see that's what's going on. It's exactly what the principles are pointing us towards, because the principles never tell us what to do. They don't, you know, they're not a kind of, so live your life in this way, so if you do this you'll feel better, so if you understand the principles, you know, you will do this. But it's just, it is that I see thought, and in those places, as soon as you see something is thought, that is when it shifts, it changes, it dissolves.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we were talking earlier, we were kind of saying, once we have seen something as thought, like if you use your example, if somebody is bugging the shit out of you, you know, really annoying you, as soon as you see the role that thought is playing in that, you can't be angry anymore. Sometimes even when you want to be, it's like, I can't make myself feel like that anymore, because I have seen the thought there.
Yeah.
I've seen through it.
Yeah. You can't once you've seen it. It's just like an optical illusion. That now it makes sense. Now that I'm thinking of it, that makes sense why, like, Michael Neal has that in his book, you know, Optical Illusions, because once you see it, you can't unsee it again. Or the magic eyes that are 3D. Once you see those, you know, you don't unsee them. Or you think a snake, you think a rope is a snake. Once you know it's a rope, it can't scare you anymore. And that's the same with this. Once you see its thought, it can't scare you anymore, and you won't, you know, there's no more anxiety associated with it, or anger associated with it, or depression, or any of the emotions and feelings that thoughts bring with them, because they come together as a pair, thought and feelings. which is pretty neat.
Yeah, it is. It's
Something else I can talk about that I talked about yesterday on my Peace of Mind group, Facebook group. Somebody posted, I saw this when I was just at the train station waiting for my other train. Somebody posted, what was it? Oh, somebody promised that they were going to do something for them and didn't do it. And this person was very upset. And she's like, I don't see how this, this person has made me upset. What do you say? What say you? And I just said, my short answer first, because it was when I was like in a hurry or something. My short answer was, expectations are a bitch. And that was my short answer. But then she said, well, that's not really helpful. And so when I sat down and thought about it a little more when I was waiting, I wish I should probably read it because it was cool.
Where is it? Can you get it?
I think I can talk about it. I said, okay, so somebody told you they were going to do something. So they told you they were going to do something. What is that made of? That's nothing physical. That's nothing material that you can hold on to, or in the box, whatever. So they told you something, and then you had certain expectations about it. Again, those expectations are just out there. It's nothing that you can hold on to. There's nothing physical about it. And so when it didn't happen, what was it? That other person wasn't even involved. There's no other person even involved in that situation anymore. It was just something was said, some expectations were had. There's nothing physical about it. There's nothing, it doesn't exist. I don't know. It made sense to me yesterday. And it seemed like it helped. The woman said she like totally saw things differently after that it really helped her. Because it was just this logical thing. There's nothing, how can it be coming from that other person? They have nothing to do with it.
Yeah, it's seeing, isn't it, that this comes from you, because it really, really does look in those times. It really does look that the way we feel has something to do with what somebody else has done or said or not done or not said, and it is kind of bringing it back to you again and seeing, going back to the I see thought. It's seeing the role that thought played in that.
Right.
And like you say, when somebody says, I'm going to do something, what is that? When we speak to somebody, when we have that conversation, there isn't, all there is the principle of thought in action there.
Yeah, it doesn't exist. And so what can you can be mad, but you're only mad at your own thoughts, at your own expectations that weren't met. And that's what expectations are one of the major causes of suffering. We expect things to be a certain way, and when they don't go that way, which they never do, because they're just made up, we suffer. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's great when you see that, isn't it? That we expect things to be a certain way. We expect that to happen like that, and it is kind of arguing with. Just take tonight. Jill is a guest in our house, and we had been out shopping, and we had decided that we were going to cook a chicken curry for tea tonight. And, Jill, I like chicken curry. That's fine. So we decided to get it all sorted, be in time for the webinar, so we can have eaten. And I started cooking, and I opened the jar, and we got a mix to put in it, and something was wrong with the jar, and the curry, it was off. And so it was like, and we now live in a farm quite away from anywhere, out in the middle of nowhere, and I'd kind of put all this stuff in the pan, and there we were all of a sudden, right, oh, okay, there's nothing to eat. And obviously the expectation was that we'd been shopping, we'd prepared this, there was going to be food. So it was like, and you can really see, oh, okay, that hasn't turned out the way I expected it to turn out. That was not what I was expecting. And then, as it happens, there was other food in the house, and we managed somehow. But I can really see how it's so easy to kind of look at that and kind of go like, well, that's not fair. You know, the jar was a new jar. That shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have been anything wrong with it. It shouldn't have, you know,
or
like,
if you didn't put it in.
yeah, the rest of the food would have been all right, or all these things that we kind of,
and we could have been all like, well, now what are we going to do? We get this webinar, and nobody was. I mean, there was all four of us, and nobody was. Everyone was just like, you know, I'm just kind of still on my thing, whatever, and everyone's just,
yeah, it's kind of like, guys, there's a problem with the food. I don't know what we're going to eat tonight.
Whatever. Of course, it helped that we all had a big lunch.
But you know, I can see in the past how that would have, it's those kind of things where I realize, oh, I had expected tonight to go in a certain way, and now it hasn't gone the way that I was expecting it to go. And the times, you know, that is so common in my life that we have that, don't we? We project a future. We make up that, you know, if Jill comes to stay, you know, oh, and even when you came here, there was, you were supposed to get here a certain way, and then that all didn't work out the way that it was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I can really see how, before I understood the role that thought played in my experience of life, I would have got very, very caught up in the way I believed my life should play out, in the way that I believe life should work. And those are kind of little trivial examples. But I mean, we all have these things, don't we? Every day when we think, you know, people say they're going to do something, or we decide to do something, or we go to sometimes a lot of trouble to organize things a certain way. And then when they don't play out the way we feel that they should, we get very upset and frustrated, and it looks as if it's to do with the circumstances. And when we go back, you know, to that beginning, I see thought. If we become aware, yeah, that's what thought does to us. Thought catches us in those ways, and it really, really, really looks as if it's to do with our circumstances, or to do with someone else, and it's just it does have a way of dissolving these things. And
mm-hmm. And these, I think, to me, like the example of the food tonight is a perfect example, because it is something that happens all the time. And these are the kinds of things that I tell people that I talk to look for. Look for these times in your life where these things happen, and you then did see through it. Oh, you know, it was just thought. You know, where did you see? Because if you seek this evidence out, like if we did get upset or whatever, we would have probably laughed at it later that we were upset about it, because we would have seen through it. But not everyone does, you know. And it's all day long. We could imagine all day long all the things that could be bugging us to death. Like, it's no wonder the world is so stressed out, because nothing does go the way you expect it to. You know, that's just not the way life works. But for somehow we have it in our minds that that it's supposed to. It's kind of funny, because it doesn't. It just, you know, it just doesn't. And so everyone's out there planning. Okay, in 4 weeks this is going to happen. We have to make sure we do this, and this, and then, you know, something else changes, and that thing in 4 weeks never even occurs, or you know, or whatever. And all that time wasted planning for that. And I'm not saying that we should never make any plans or be proactive. There are things that we do need to do and can do, but oftentimes, many of us go overboard with planning and stuff, only because you can only plan so far.
Yeah, and it just kind of looks to me, make all those plans. It's a really good idea to make those plans, but just don't get hung up on the fact that they're going to work out the way that you think they should, because that's, you know, that to me is going back to that expectation is a bitch. You know, yeah. It's kind of, we organize these things and we decide it's going to happen this way, and you know, and then life doesn't do that all the time, does it? I mean, sometimes things turn out the way you think, but very, very often, you know, when we project a future, it's an incomplete equation, what we're projecting, and there are bits of it missing, and when we get there, it doesn't turn out the way we thought it was going to. And it is when we make our okayness ride on the fact that life has to turn out the way we think it should. You know, like tonight, if I'd been in a place of thinking, oh, you know, Jill is my guest, I've got to look after her, I've got to impress her, the dinner's got to be right, and all this. But we do that to ourselves, don't we? We do it. We do that. We put so much on ourselves. We put so much pressure, and it is no wonder that we get caught up in anxiety and stress because of the amount of things we put on ourselves.
All the thought going on about it all day long. You know, with all those things you got to keep track of, you know, no wonder, like when you think of how much thought we used to, for me, you know, at least how much I used to have on my mind, that's just not there anymore, because I you know, most of the time I'm not future thinking too much, you know, and able to just go with the flow, because you don't need to think that far ahead. Like when we were driving today in the car, the roads here are these windy, like there's these big hedges on the side, and they're very narrow roads, and you know, they're doing this, you can only see a little bit ahead. And I said that was an analogy for this, what we're talking about right now, because you can, you know, you need to be able to see ahead a certain amount, but you can't see, like if there's a big truck, you know, slightly down the road, you don't know. So you be prepared, you be aware that maybe a truck could come. And so you're ready to hit the brake if you need to, or steer away or whatever. But you don't know really what's coming and when. And that's the way it is. You just can see enough down the road. And so plan for that and be aware of you'd be aware and be open to what might be coming next. It really, those roads are like a perfect analogy for it.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, and you can make a whole journey. I mean, today we've been quite a distance, and we could make our whole journey only being able to see just a few feet in front of us, because where I live out in the country, there are a lot of windy, twisty roads, and a lot of the time you can't see.
We had the fog too.
Yeah, we did.
You couldn't even see the usual little bit that you could see with the fog. That's when you're really caught up in thought.
And yet we got where we were going. We still managed to get to where we were going
in one piece.
In one piece, yes. And here we are back. You know, and that is, you can always see enough. But it is just the thought that you can't see enough, the thought that life shouldn't work that way, the thought that, you know,
I need to see more.
Yeah, I need to know more. I think we sometimes can get into a place of feeling that we need to be in control in life. And, you know, like the examples just of today with the meal and the kerfuffle we had with Jill actually getting here, and, you know, in the last kind of, you've been here, about 24 hours, and just kind of in that amount of time, there's been at least 3 things that haven't gone the way that we planned that they would. And it's kind of like the old me, pre-principles, who had to make sure life went the way I felt life should go, would have freaked about these things not working out. And it's,
yeah, me too. The old me, like with traveling here, would have been, you know, because there was some other people at the conference that I was going to be able to take the trains back here with, and that just would have made it nice and relaxing for me. I would, you know, they knew the trains and, you know, where to go, and that would be nice and relaxing.
And you were getting a lift here, weren't you then?
Yeah. And then, but then when they didn't come, I'm like, oh, I guess I got to figure it all out myself. But I didn't care. I knew I could figure it out. I mean, I didn't get anxious like I definitely would have. And again, I was aware. I just knew I had to be more aware. I need to read the train signs. I need to look at the train schedule myself, and I need to become aware, you know, of what time it is now and where I have to be, and ask people if I need to, you know, where to go. And it's just aware. It's just so much aware. It's all about being aware around us, aware that things are thought, and aware of what's happening around us in the moment.
Yeah, because I think very often when people begin to kind of look in this direction and see this, it can be very, very tempting to believe that we have to control our thinking, you know, that we have to, you know, it makes sense that when we begin to see, we feel what we think, and then the next obvious step that people seem to, that seems to be there is, okay, so I will think in a good way, I will control what I think. And very much kind of what we're pointing to is actually it's enough to be aware of your thinking.
That you think, because
yeah.
you don't even need to know what the content is.
No.
It's to be aware that you think. And that seems, when I first heard about that, it doesn't or even realized it for myself, it seems, well, of course I think, we all know we think, but we really don't. We know to a certain extent when we're trying to figure something out or figure out a problem or, do some math or something, we know we're thinking then, but most of us don't know we think all the time, constantly, that it's a constant energy flow within us and that it's just happening all the time. And we don't know that unless, for me, I just started looking at it, just during my regular day, just noticing, oh yeah, there's thoughts going on in my head. And it's not about the content, because it doesn't really matter. I know for some people, when I told them to observe their thoughts, they didn't really like what they were finding in there. And it seemed like that was making them feel worse. So I'm trying to be more clear now that it's not about trying to figure out what you're thinking, but just know that you're thinking and how much you are thinking, constantly, because then you can make that connection that it's the thought creating your feelings and your experience of life. It's all coming from there. But if you don't know you're thinking, you don't know there's thought flowing through you, how would you ever know that it's that creating your feeling? Because I do get that question a lot too. People are like, well, I wake up anxious and there were no thoughts going on in my head. But it's not, we don't know we have those thoughts. So it seems that way. I spent my whole life, 50 years, being anxious. And I wouldn't have told you there were anxious thoughts in my head. I had no idea. It was just a normal feeling for me. My normal was anxiety. It was just anxious thoughts, kind of balled up in the back of my head. But as I started to see again, become aware that there were thoughts in my head all the time, they can't stand the light of day. I say, I liken it to cockroaches. You shine a light on them, or torch, as you guys say, and they scatter. And that's what our thoughts do too. And as soon as you can get a few layers of thought out of there just from observing them, your head starts to open up, free up space, frees up in your head for new thought to come in. And that's when insights and stuff really can pop in, and then life really changes for you.
Yeah, to me it looks like thoughts are like smoke and mirrors. They kind of look like they've got real substance. They look like there's something. They fool us in that way. But like you say, as we look at them, as we shine a light on them, thoughts can't stand up to any kind of scrutiny. Yeah. Can they? Because there is no substance to them. Like if we go back to the beginning of this conversation, and you were talking about that lady, who said that somebody had let her down, and you're kind of saying, but what was that? All that was created by a thought, and there was no actual substance, but it feels so solid. It feels so real. And when you're fighting for its realness in a way, when you go, but this feels really real, that's the only thing that kind of almost gives it its realness and its substance. Whereas if you kind of question it, if you were, well, is it real? As soon as you do shine that light on it, or it's just smoke and mirrors, and there's nothing there that's got any substance that can actually do anything.
Yeah, because it's like all these things that we call a problem, they're not real. There's no substance to a problem. It's in our mind that we've defined whatever happens to be going on. And in this moment, if we're not looking into the future of that supposed problem, there's no problem. There's no problem in this moment. If we're not going into the past about stuff, there's no reason generally to be sad or be depressed. And if we're not looking towards the future, there's nothing to be anxious about either. If in this moment, this that's which is all we have. There is no past. Again, that doesn't exist. Memories exist of the past, and they're not correct either. And there is no future. There's only this present moment that's constantly recreating itself. So there's nothing here. This whole moment is smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, there's just no, whoops, there's no substance to it. And this is it. It goes back again beautifully to I see thought. When we see, it points to the fact that there is no substance to what, our anxiety comes from fearing our thoughts. And when we see there's no substance to what it is that's, where the fear comes from, there's nothing there to be frightened of. And seeing through it, it dissolves all on its own. We don't have to change our thinking. There's nothing we have to do but see the role that the power of thought plays in our moment to moment experience. And it's pretty mind-blowing, actually, isn't it, when you kind of see that? It's like, wow.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but I don't see this all the time as we're talking about it. Like, I'm getting these glimpses of it, and I know the truth of it. But certainly, as I think we talked about earlier today, just in our general life, we still are living life like we are human beings, and we are supposed to feel the world as solid, you know. So it's not like we go around, I can go through these things. They're not real. It doesn't exist.
No, I mean, life is still life. It's we've just not long moved house, and Lou and Beck have, my nieces have moved in with me, and then Jill's come to visit, and my partner lives here. So there's always all sorts going on here. It's not like my life is not. There's all sorts going on here, isn't there, Jill?
Oh yeah.
Plenty. And you
probably wouldn't have picked this timing for me to be.
No, it's perfect. My house is a busy house, and life does life. I do all sorts of things, and life never stops. Understanding the principles doesn't mean, I know a lot of the times when people speak to me, they kind of say, well, don't you just stop bothering doing anything, don't you? But it doesn't. That's not been my experience.
It's the opposite.
Yeah.
Like, you have more space in your head to want to do stuff. You're not so confused, like, should I do this? Should I do this? Should I do this? You just, when life is flowing, like, you just do the next thing. You follow your nose, what seems right to do next in that next moment. Like, you just go with the flow. The river keeps going. Like, when it's flowing, it doesn't just suddenly stop because it doesn't get confused or something. I don't know. That's probably a bad metaphor. But it's the same with me. Like, I've got stuff going on at home with one of my daughters and stuff. I probably shouldn't really even be here. I should be there with her. But, I committed to come and it'll work itself out, hopefully, as best as it can. And it's fine, Life goes.
Life just continues to do life. But it is, as we see, for me, the more I see the role that thought, this energy of thought, and as we say, not the content of our thinking, but this energy of thought that every one of us has passing through us all the time. When we begin to see the huge role that energy of thought plays in our moment-to-moment experience, our moment-to-moment experience changes. It lightens. It becomes more fun. It becomes more playful. It becomes, life feels good.
Yeah, and you're able to observe it a little bit too. You become the observer. Even you're living it in one respect, like this stuff that's going on with my daughter. I've been up and down between being, anxious and worried and then being fine, and just up and down as things have been unfolding, and planning for the future, as with my other daughters, we got to do this and this. But so I've been watching me go. It's a roller coaster life. We're doing this constantly, and a piece of me watches that and says, yeah, that's interesting, and doesn't, and the anxiety just isn't there. I have moments of anxiety, but I wouldn't, all throughout this stuff, there has not been this like constant anxiety, even though it's, you know, I mean, there's serious stuff happening.
Mm. It is really good when it's just like there's that bit of space, isn't there, between these anxious thoughts and this stuff going on and life. It's like you just have this little bit of space, and it's amazing what can come out of just having that little bit of space, just just taking that little step back, observing rather than being in.
That's it's the suffering part.
Yeah.
The suffering is optional. That's what I like to tell people, because people assume, well, if this happens, of course I'm going to suffer. You know, this is bad. This is really bad. And of course anybody would suffer in this situation. But it's not true. The suffering part is optional, because what's happening is what's happening. And that's going to happen whether we like it or not. And I'm not saying that we should like bad situations, but we still don't have to suffer, or, you know, our suffering can be less, at least. You know, we are human, so we probably will suffer some. You know, there are bad things, or things we label as bad. I don't know if they're actually bad, but that's another whole webinar.
We'll do that webinar another night.
Yeah. I wonder if anyone has questions.
Just thinking the same thing. So,
or wants or comments.
Yeah, if anyone would like to kind of share anything, if anyone has got any questions, or if anyone would like to share anything that what they're hearing, what's making sense, what's not making sense. So you can put your hand up, or hello.
Who's that?
Who was that?
Kelly?
Is it Kelly? Hello, Kelly?
Nope.
Nope. Nope.
Oh, did you?
I didn't. No.
Anybody?
So
what's in the chat?
I think that.
So I loved your idea that the thoughts are like cockroaches. You shine a light on them, they disappear. I think that really works. I'm going to use that, if that's okay.
Totally,
it's really true. Yeah, absolutely.
Me, yeah.
What was that? I was thinking. Maybe that's when you get older, though. Like me, you know.
Yeah, that's a different kind of thing.
Yeah, well, it was my birthday yesterday, so obviously I've lost it all.
Happy birthday!
Too late.
I don't think you've lost it, Martin.
I hope not.
I think I did mention the cockroach light thing in this wonderful book of mine.
Aha, okay, yeah.
It's been stocked.
Is it available on Amazon?
And yes, available on Amazon in Kindle or book form.
And it is a great book. I have read the book, and it is a really, really good book. It's a really good read. It's a great book, very worthwhile reading. So
a fast read too.
Yeah, it's not a huge book, but it's a really good book, and it's, you know, full of lovely little things like that, nice things that kind of spark insights about our thinking. And
I think the children will like that one.
Sorry, Martin?
I think the children will like that one. Cockroaches.
For me, with that, when I noticed when I was like laying down in yoga, at the end you do like this little meditation, and I noticed there were layers and layers and layers of thought, and as I started to observe them throughout my day, I noticed in yoga there were fewer layers, and then one day all of a sudden I was laying there, and it was like this. It was like they were the clouds, and they literally parted like this, and it was clear blue sky. And then I got scared, and they came back in. But then in other times after that, I was able to sort of recreate that. And the cool thing is that space that was created when those clouds parted, that's who we really are. That quiet space that's there without all the thought, and it's a nice space to have and to be in, and we all have it. It's always there underneath the thoughts. That's what's really, that's the beauty of all this.
Yeah. Do you find that happens more frequently, Jill?
Oh yeah, that's more my default state. I mean, it's everyone's default state, but I have so much less on my mind in general that even with all the stuff that's been going on, like with my daughter, my head feels not like as clear as it sometimes is, but still for the most part, it's more my natural state now. And that's just, I think, from observing thoughts and from having insights that just have come that kind of delete old conditioning out of it takes some of those beliefs that are stuck in the back of my head that just dissolves them.
Mm. Yeah, it is. It is like understanding it is like a magic dissolving paste, isn't it? It sort of, it does thoughts that, and the funny thing is, for me, that I noticed a lot of thoughts that I didn't even know I was having fell away. I would find myself being lighter and easier in times, and I hadn't even realized that I had a lot of thinking about those situations until they played out differently. So it's, it's amazing what comes from the realization of just how much this power of thought, how, what it does, how big a part it plays in our experience. Because I think most of us kind of know it plays a part in our experience, but we kind of give it credit for about this much, and yet it has credit for all this much. And we kind of begin to see in little stages, oh yeah, it's there as well, isn't it? Oh yeah, it's there as well, it's there. And each place that we begin to see this little worm of thought gets everywhere. And each place we see, oh yeah, and it goes back, doesn't it, to I see thought. And that is absolutely what the principles are pointing us towards. This thought created reality that we hang out in. And the brilliant thing is we are built for this reality that we live in. We're made to do this and to do it really, really well. And then we misunderstand. We misunderstand what's going on. We miss it. And it's like we crash then or we suffer.
We suffer, yeah.
And it's kind of seeing, to me, it always looks like, if we've got something to deal with, very often when I begin to talk to people who have kind of misunderstood how life works and maybe not quite seen these principles and seen like I didn't, it's almost like you're starting at a disadvantage because you're trying to sort something out where the problem isn't. It would be like if you'd broken your arm and the doctor started treating your leg, and you're kind of like, it's a great idea, but you're just not in the right place. And it's like, to me, as we begin to understand the principles, it's like we're writing ourselves, we're in the right place now. This suffering that we have, we're actually seeing where it truly comes from. So we've got a chance now because we're actually we're sorting stuff out in the right place, as it were.
Right. But then you get the doctors who just put a Band-Aid on the thoughts by like saying to change thoughts. There was some people in my group tonight. I saw a woman who was talking about CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and saying, oh, once you start changing your thoughts, it'll all be good. But that's just putting a Band-Aid on it, because you can't really change your thoughts. Like you can temporarily, okay, I won't think about that, and think about purple elephants, whatever, and that works for a few minutes. But though it's not our thoughts, we don't choose which thoughts come in and out. They just come and they go, and over the long stretch of time, it's not helpful because it doesn't work. And then it also adds more thought because, okay, I have to change these thoughts. So that's all thought too. And that just makes for a busier mind, not a less busier mind. Whereas just noticing that we have thought makes for a less busier mind.
Yeah, moving into a place of awareness gives you less thinking, whereas trying to interfere to make sure you have the right thinking or change the thinking that you've got or not think this, or that's a whole nother job. And kind of, if you'd have been around us guys today, we've had a ball today, we've just had fun, and we've been working all day, we've been working on our business, we've been doing all sorts of things, and it's been great fun. And to me, it kind of looks like, as we begin to understand the truth of who we are, and like Jill was saying earlier, the truth of who we are is this: peaceful place that's between our thoughts. And when we connect to that place within ourselves, it's like it goes from, it used to feel to me as if I had a full-time job and then all this stuff to do and then something else on top of that, and then I had to make sure my mind was okay. And now it kind of feels like I've just got a part-time job. Doesn't feel like I've got millions upon millions upon millions of stuff to do. It's kind of, we begin to see this system that we've been born into, the truth of who we are, so much more of it is already taken care of. We are already taken care of. When we cut ourselves, if I was to bump my arm and cut my arm and it would start to bleed or something, I wouldn't kind of think, oh my gosh, I need to make sure the blood's coagulating, or if I need to make sure the skin's knitting back together. It's built into this system. It's a done deal. I don't have to do anything. I just kind of have to maybe keep it clean and make sure it's not bumped again for a little while till it gets better. And we have got the same system built in around anxiety and fear, and when our minds go amok, when we bump our minds, really, there's kind of like a self-writing system built in there. There's so much less for us to actually do. And when we begin to realize that, when we begin to see that there's so much less for us to do, life just, we've got all this time.
Yeah,
we can have webinars.
They got so much done today, and I mean, the whole time there wasn't a moment without laughter, and and it was, but they were working, and and every now and then I'd say, how about this? Give them some ideas.
Yeah, Jill was petting her.
But it was all just fun work. I said, I want to work here.
Everybody wants to come and work for us. It's great fun.
Yeah.
So I wonder if anyone else has got any questions, or here we go. I can unmute you. So are you India? Linda. Sorry, I can't see. See what thought does? Hi, Linda.
Hi. I'm not sure what to do when you can see that it's thought. Like, I'm still having panic attacks at work, and it's been probably a year since I've been in this conversation. I'm a massage therapist, and I have panic attacks at work, which it's really hard to get through, but I have to go to work, so I have to face it. So I'm facing the fear and doing it anyways. And even though I can really clearly see that it is thought that's going on there, I guess I'm not seeing it at the level that that creates change. I'm having a hard time, and I'm losing clients, so my income is being affected. So it's kind of snowballing the stressful thinking. And I kind of don't really know what to do from here. I know there's nothing to do, but I don't know. Any suggestions?
It's always so tricky because as you said, you see that it's thought, but then also at some level you must not be seeing because it's not making change. And that's, so that is true, because when we do see it, it does dissolve. But I think, with these panic attacks, it seems like, and again, I've not had them. I don't know if you have. I
did used to have panic attacks.
I mean, I know from what Nicola says, for her, Nicola Bird, it wasn't really until she was just okay with that. Okay, if I go to work, I may have a panic attack. I'm okay with that. And I know it sounds ridiculous, because how can you be okay with something like that? But it's the same. How can you be okay when, all these other things are happening? You don't really have a choice, because that's what's happening, that you're thinking in the future,
Yeah.
with it, and concerned what might happen. Right now in this moment, you're not having a panic attack, and in each moment you're not. It's just the idea of it, and so it builds on itself. But it really does seem like it's about being okay with whatever situation.
I know. It's the resistance persistence, and I've been trying to accept it for so long, but I can accept it. Sometimes when I'm driving, I'll have a panic attack, and I'm okay with those. I think it's because it's work, and it's income related, and also it's really hard to get through a panic attack when you're actually physically trying to give somebody a massage. Like, you can't imagine how difficult that is. But I know that the key to the whole thing is to accept it, and to just, it's happening anyways. It's been 6 years. I've been, it feels like I've been battling it.
I think, and that's part of the issue, I think, too, is it's become a sole focus in your life, perhaps, maybe not sole, but a major focus.
Yeah.
And so it's constantly on your mind because,
Yeah.
and so and it's, the way you're talking about it, it's like, I know I have to do this, so it still becomes a doing, the letting go becomes a doing, and it, it's all just, it's like, just do something else, and don't, it's somehow being able to get it off your mind, that it's not, that it's just such that's the being okay with it in the end, where you really literally like however my life is going to be is how my life is going to be. And it's nothing you do. Like, it's nothing, there's nothing to do. There's no letting go. There's no letting be. It's not a thing. It's just a going with every moment as it is, and not future thinking it.
Yeah, I know. Like, Nicola is really big on just not doing those things that cause those panic attacks. She always just says, don't go to the store until things settle down. But I feel like, well, I have to go to work there. I can't just wait for things to settle down and my mind to clear. I actually have to face it. And so I guess that's part of the problem too, is my feeling like I have to. Like, if I felt like other people that were able to just avoid the things that caused the panic, I would be so relaxed. If I didn't have to go to work, it would be awesome. But that's probably just more thought.
It's a belief too, that you have to go to work. I mean,
yeah, I have to.
But there's there's a million ways to make money, and there's different, there's the world is open like that. So, I mean, that belief itself
is keeping stuff in place.
Exactly.
And it's not like saying, oh, so don't go to work, but it's recognizing, it's seeing there the huge part that thought is playing in even that belief. I have to go to work, and the kind of working is causing my panic attacks. I mean, I have had panic attacks. I used to have panic attacks a lot. And interestingly, when you said driving was where I used to have my panic attacks. And then I got to a place where I couldn't go anywhere because I couldn't bear. So I absolutely don't believe that the answer is to not do things that appear to cause your panic attacks. It's seeing the truth of that is not what is causing my panic attack. Driving, I know.
The thing is, I know that. Like, I know that, but there's something in me that doesn't know it. Like, I think it's that whole intellectual understanding and not the real understanding of it somehow. And I am very stuck. Like, it's been, like I said, a year, and I'm still in the same holding pattern. Like, I don't know.
Have you? I think you're in that Peace of Mind group, right?
Yeah.
Facebook. Have you been looking for evidence in other places in your life, little things that where you see that it was thought? Because to me, it's not, it's forgetting about the anxiety and panic, but just anything where you see, oh, that was thought too.
Yeah.
Until you can believe because it is intellectual, but you have to look for it in other places in your life where that was thought, that was thought, that was thought, that was thought. And then you'll be like, well, obviously all these things are thought.
Yeah, I do. I do see it in other places in my life, and it has helped me in other places in my life, but for some reason it's not helping me in the place where I want it to help me.
That's the problem, because that's what you want. And that's it's like a sneaky little thing. It doesn't do that. Like, I didn't know I even had anxiety, and it just disappeared. And I think that's the difference. Like, I wasn't trying to get rid of anxiety. I didn't come into this understanding trying to do anything. It's just, I had insights and things changed for me. I had no idea that I was probably on the verge of being an alcoholic, and suddenly I didn't want to drink anymore, but I didn't want to stop drinking. I had no plans to stop drinking, no desire to stop drinking. I just can't really drink now. I have no desire to get drunk anymore, but I wasn't looking for those things. And it feels to me like it's so much harder for people when they're looking for some specific cure. This isn't a cure thing. It's just the way life works. That's all. Just learn how life works and see what happens from there without, this isn't a cure for panic attacks. Even though some people don't have panic attacks anymore after learning this thing.
Yeah, those things are a byproduct, isn't it? That our life gets better in ways. I mean, my life got better in ways that I never expected it to get better. And funnily enough, one of my huge things, the biggest thing for me, was fear around money. I was literally absolutely paralyzed with fear around money. And I so wanted that to go. I was desperate not to be fearful around that. And, all these other things were dropping away. My relationships were great. And I was having a ball. And I was doing, when I first met you, we talked about, and I.
You still had money. Yeah.
Oh,
money
gosh.
Issues.
Yeah. I was really in this place of, I just didn't see. Money did not look to me like it was thought, money is this real stuff. And if I don't have it, and it's going to be, no matter what I did, and I seem to have a really deep understanding in other places, and yet money, this one that I wanted more than anything. And in the end, I thought, hey, do you know what? It's just never going to go there. Never mind, get on with your life. And then all of a sudden, I would say probably in the last 6 months, I've started to have insights around that. And it's like, wow, and I saw things that, it's crazy. It's like, how did I not see that? And it's like, when we were talking just then, and Jill said, when you said, oh, I have to go to work, and we kind of said, well, actually that's thought too. And you're like, no, that's not thought, that's true. And if you just said to me, I had no money, and if you just said to me, well, you know what, it's fine, you don't need money, I'd have been, well, yeah, really? No, I do. I actually need to find a way to earn money. Are you crazy? I do. And then I was speaking to a friend the other day, and I've moved house, and I live in this really nice house. And she was like, aren't you the person who has never had money and haven't got any money? And I was like, yeah, who knew? It's like, I just didn't see that. I would have betted my children's life on it, that was true, that was real, that was solid. And now all I can say is, I see thought.
But you didn't give up caring about it as a strategy. You just like, there's nothing I can do, this is just the way it is. Like, you just resigned yourself to, I'm never going to have money, or I'm always going to have issues about money, and there's nothing I can do about it. But it wasn't a strategy. That's always the problem. It's such a goddamn paradox. It's horrible, because we hate to tell you stuff like that. I mean, it's just like, you literally have to be like, I'm probably going to have panic attacks at work all rest of my life, and
who cares?
But it's not just a saying it, like it's just at some point you give up, and
bang,
who knows,
happens.
Maybe
Yeah, some days I give up. I have the money issue too, but it's all work and lack of work, and so lack of money, and then the panic attacks, and it's all
probably all tied together.
Yeah,
it's all tied together. Like, I can see it. I know what's going on, but yeah,
stay in the conversation, but look at it for other things too, or just look at it in general, that this is just how life works, and be gentle with yourself, because 99% of the people in the world have the same issues and the same problems, and believe the same.
Doesn't seem like that to me. None of my friends are having this.
But they do. Different ways. It manifests differently to other people. Believe me, everyone has a crazy person in their head. Watch my video on that.
Yeah, trust me, they do too. It's very, very easy to kind of look at other people and go, oh, they've got all their ducks in the row. Oh, they're all sorted. Their life's all perfect. Oh, everything's really good for them. And we're all on this roller coaster. This is one of the things I absolutely love about this understanding, is it levels the playing field. There's no, me and Jill sitting here, we're not saying we're better or worse than anyone else. I have thought too. I have thoughts that really trip me up sometimes, and that's why I can look at other people and know what's going. When somebody says, oh, this thought, or they come with a problem or something, you're like, yeah, I really, really, really know what that feels like. When you're sitting here, I want to hold you in my arms, because I have so been there. I so know how shit it can feel, what you're talking about now. But hang on in there, because the truth of who you are is just, there's magic there. And you are no different to Jill or to me or to anyone on this call. You're just not.
Oh no, I'm sure everyone in this call is. It's just that I know that my friends don't suffer from anxiety. Like they don't have insomnia. They don't have panic attacks. They're not, of course they're having thinking, but they're not having the kind of issues that I'm having. I mean, I don't know, like it doesn't seem that way. Like I'm sure that they have things that they worry about and have some sleepless nights, but it's just, it's not the consuming thing that it is for me. But anyways, thanks so much for your time. There might be some other people with questions, and I don't want to take up the whole time slot.
You're welcome. Very welcome.
Thank you.
So has anyone else got anything that they would like to share, or a question, or any comments, anything? Has anyone else got anything they would like to?
Don't be shy.
Me again.
Oh, hello, lovely Martin.
I might just say to Linda that I've been in work for a real long time and very stable and probably making quite a lot of money. And I lost work about a year ago now. Haven't earned any money. I'm absolutely, really have no money. And I'm happier than I've ever been. Partly because of the principles. But it's, the thought of money itself is it's something that stresses you out. And, I used to have to, running a company and doing all the accounts and all that stuff. Not doing that, and I'm fantastically happy. And moving on, I'm becoming a professional three principles person, and it's life's looking great. I still haven't got any money.
But how are you eating? How are you paying your rent? I mean, I can't go a year without money. I can't.
Well, I obviously I have some. I've got a lodger, but compared to, in absolute honesty, I've got a lodger that pays me £400 a month, and I was earning £600 a day before. The difference is absolute chalk and cheese. And I still can get food, and my girlfriend helps me and stuff like that, because, that's another miracle that's occurred, at exactly the right time. How does that happen? It's just stuff changes around you, and, you're not set in this one thing, which is, where I have been. I've been set in a way, and this is what I was doing. Everything was great. But life's still great, but it's as different a life I'm living now as I've ever lived before. Yeah. But still fantastic. And meeting wonderful people like yourself and Debra. And
lovely people. The world is full of lovely people.
Exactly.
I think we get like a new normal, and you can't imagine what it would be like. Like you would assume if I lost a job and lost all that money, of course anyone would feel horrible and not be able to live on such a small amount of money. But you don't know until you're in that situation. And it's the worrying about that happening that's much worse than when it actually does happen. And
but it has happened. Like I'm already riding the, like Michael Neal says, you have the car, or you have the bike. I'm already riding the bike. I'm already, eating, I don't eat out. I don't, I'm already living on a shoestring budget. So the next step is, homelessness basically. So but yeah, that's just a tough one to to try to accept that idea is a little bit tough. But again,
stuff can come to you to different ways that you could make money or get food or find a place to live or whatever it is that you might need. There's so if again it comes down to awareness. By being aware and looking what's out there, opportunities and stuff could be around you that maybe because when we're in our heads so much, we miss some of these opportunities because we're just thinking, I need money, instead of thinking, what are some other ways that I might eat or whatever
Yeah.
it might be.
Thanks, Martin.
Yeah, Martin is lovely. Thank you, Martin. So has anyone else got anything that they would like, any comments, anything they would like to share? So, Erica, I will unmute you. Hi, Erica.
Hello, hiya. Bear with me, everybody. I'm feeling a bit poorly today. I've got a swollen leg. We're trying to figure out what's going on there. So I might not make sense. Going back to sort of like, I suppose, the many aspects and stuff. I'm in a weird one. I'm on benefits. I'll say that. I'm on state benefits, not being able to work due to being long-term ill for 20 odd years. So I'm in a situation where, let's just say, haven't got savings or pensions or things like that. All the kind of conventional stuff, expectations and things like that. And I'll be honest, I'm scared. I'm scared of, how does somebody still with health problems and other things find a way to actually maybe even let go of those thoughts and feelings of well, I say the expectation, when you've been ill and in the benefit system as long as I have, you kind of expect to sort of stay there, really, not to develop. And when you possibly even think about doing so or hope to, you kind of almost got a sense of you're not allowed to in that sense, and not to grow. And so I'm kind of thrown between lots of different worlds where you don't know where you're coming or going, really. And there's a lot of uncomfortable thoughts, a lot of uncomfortable feelings and ideas, which are probably a load of, when I say nonsense, they're there. I don't quite know yet with the 3 Ps how to kind of get there yet, I suppose, and not be so scared, not be so frightened, because I've not really had a sense of security in that sense. So I'm really coming from a place where I'm a bit, I may not be, oddly, I'm one step from being homeless in an odd way. Things have just got to change, whether it's through the state or anything else. I'm in trouble. There's a lot of noise going on.
Just have to mute there. Go on.
That was it. So that's just my sort of comments and things like that for me, where I'm at the moment. Different for everyone, because I do appreciate people become redundant, things change. But I think it is about, I can see that with 3 Ps, people seem to flow a little better with the changes that may come, maybe more open to changes, maybe more embracing. That doesn't make them any less scared, I suppose. I don't know in that sense. But yeah, that's, like I said, just my comments. So just shut up now.
Thank you, Erica. Yeah, thank you. There wasn't a question in there, right? Just comments.
There was a question. I don't know if there is. There's probably loads of questions in there, like how does the 3 Ps work? How does it do that? But I can see that when I say they're pointless questions, I can see if you have understanding of the 3 Ps, some of that questions get answered. So I can see through others that answer, but I can't see it for myself. So in that sense, so yeah, that's so no.
You're here tonight listening to this, and I think that's great.
Yeah, I'm grateful for that. So grateful to hear. Yeah.
Be in this conversation, stay in this conversation. Looks like a really
it's really good, because even if it's I can hear other people's fears as well, or worries. And I really relate, it may be coming from a different point, but really relate that I can also see through yourselves and others, there is another way, just haven't quite connected yet or fully in that, but it's always good to hear that others seem to have, I don't know, like you said, you've been reassuring, sort of like you're still going to have certain mindsets, still silly thoughts, but they just don't, when you said you don't have the anxiety is there, but it's not, I call it controlling the anxiety. I've got absolutely gripping, and it's paralyzing from moving or doing things or being able to be proactive in any way or kind to yourself. I can see when there's a grasp of the 3 Ps and the insights, that sort of sidesteps a bit. Doesn't mean it's gone, it's just not as important, doesn't seem to get in the way anymore.
Life anymore.
Yeah.
I can see that. I haven't experienced that for me yet, but I certainly see it in others. So that kind of gives hope in that sense.
Yes. And that's it. Just keeping that hope, I think, is really helpful. And seeing that we are all the same, we all work the same way. So the fact that many people, by understanding this stuff, do experience change, there's hope for everyone. And so staying in the conversation is great, and listening to different people who, because people say it in different ways, and you just never know when you're gonna get an insight. And just always, just looking for the truth in this, and that this really is how life works. In like I always say, in simple ways, the little things in life where you thought the rope was a snake, and so you were scared of it, and then it's a snake, you can never be, it's a rope, you'll never be scared of it again. And that's, look for all those little things in life, and things will just change when you see more and more of those little things, and that this really is how life works. Because then you can't be dragged around by your thoughts anymore, because you caught on to them. Because we're like robots before. Without this knowledge, we just get dragged around by whatever thoughts are coming in. But when we're onto them, even a little teeny bit, even just having a little crack open, they can't affect us as much. They just can't, because there's a little piece of us that does know, even when we don't see it. Like we were saying at the beginning, when we don't completely see it, there's a little piece of us that knows something's not quite right here. This can't be, because we know thoughts create our experience.
Yeah. Thank you both. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let someone else do.
I'm kind of aware of the time that we've run over a little bit, but that's cool. So has anyone else got anything quick that they want to share or say, or any comments before we end tonight? Did somebody speak then?
I think it was just noise.
Okay. Well, thank you all very much. Thank you, Jill, for tonight. It's been absolutely great to speak to you like this. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It's really, really brilliant to see you all. For those of you that this is the first time you've been on one of these webinars, I have these lovely people webinars every single week, and I have a different guest, usually not in my house. Usually usually they don't fly over all the way from America to sit next to me.
Only I knew.
Yeah, you could have just done this online. So, we have some great conversations. And next week, I think we're going to have a lovely man named Tony Fiedler, but we've yet to confirm. But it might be, if it isn't him, trust me, it will be somebody equally lovely who will be sharing this understanding from what they're seeing, what's making sense to them. And as we said, being a part of this conversation, hearing this from different people is a really, really great idea. So I'd invite anybody, you can come on this webinar. It's every Wednesday from 7 o'clock till about 8 o'clock. You're very welcome to watch it live, to ask questions, or all of the replays of all of these webinars that I've done are on my YouTube channel, which is debrasimmons.co.uk. You can go and find any of the past ones there if you'd like to watch them.
They're good, because I usually watch them. I haven't watched the last few, but there's a lot of really good stuff there.
So you know, you're very welcome to go and watch those. And I will, if Jill doesn't mind, I will post the link in the group, the Peace of Mind group.
Yeah, I can post it.
Yeah, so that you know, you'll know. Be reminded that this webinar is on. And for those of you, you know, my other people who've come, hopefully we will see you again next week. And if anyone lives near enough to me, I live in North Devon in England. If anyone lives in the area, we have a physical meetup where we do all meet together in a room on a Thursday night. That's tomorrow night. So if anyone is near enough and would like to join in our meetup,
I get to be the guest tomorrow.
Yeah, Jill's going to be there tomorrow night. So any of you that are near enough, do come along and meet Jill for real, not just online. And that's in Barnstable near Sainsbury's at Roundswell Community Centre. And yeah, we have regular meetup days as well. So our next full day is on the 26th of this month. It's a Saturday. Hope I've got the day right. And we're having a 3Ps day here. So if anyone is close enough, again, you're very, very welcome to come to that. If you want to know any questions, if you put, you know, just message me, Debra Simmons on Facebook. You can make friends with me. DebraSimmons.co.uk is my website or my Facebook page. So
I want to move here.
Yeah, I want you to move here.
Do so much fun.
We do. We have fun. We have great. And if anyone hasn't got Jill's book, I can highly recommend this book. It's a brilliant book, and it's not expensive on Kindle.
Kindle's $2, and the paperback's only $5.55. I don't know, probably like £5.
Yeah, so it's not an expensive book, and it's a great book to read if anyone hasn't got it. So have a brilliant, brilliant evening, everyone. It's been really, really great to see so many of you. Thank you very much. I will unmute you all so that you can, no, that's the wrong one.
Bye, everyone.
So you can all say
thank you for coming.
Bye, thank you. Bye, lovely to meet you, Jill. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for a great one.
Bye.
Lots of love.
Bye.
Lovely to see you, Julie.